You're watching Another Alternative.
These kids wanted to go around London, they wanted to celebrate Hanukkah, and when they stopped on Oxford Street to go and light the menorah which stands for the triumph of our people, of the Jewish people, over antisemitism, they were set upon by thugs. They had things thrown at them. They ran into the bus that they'd hired. They closed the doors behind them, and there they found that they were still subjected to anti-Semitic attack. The people outside, these thugs on the street, banged the bus with their hands. They took off their shoes and hit the bus with their shoes, seemingly trying to break the windows. They performed Nazi salutes at the children on the bus. And as the bus drew away, they were pursued by these thugs, and it's all on video, and the video is pretty clear about what happened. We go from one video where Jewish teenagers are dancing in the street celebrating Hanukkah, causing no bother to anybody, and we go to another video where these Jewish teenagers are in a bus with the doors closed, being set upon. Where were the arrests? Where were the police? They can't be everywhere, but we need these people who perpetrated this crime to be found and prosecuted. There's no substitute for that. It's going to be a difficult investigation. There are lots of people in London on Oxford Street on any given night, but if you add Christmas shopping into the mix, it's even harder to find these people. But we need to make sure that these people are arrested and prosecuted, and that is the first reason that we are here. We are here because we want justice for those Jewish teenagers who faced such anti-Semitism that night. Now, the second reason we're here, and the reason that we've picked the BBC, is because of the way the BBC decided to cover that incident. Now, it seemed to be a pretty obvious chain of events to anybody who watched the videos, but to the BBC, something was afoot. They scoured the videos, listened to every second of audio, and their conclusion, uniquely amongst all media outlets, was that at some point during the video, anti-Muslim slurs, plural, could be heard in the video, that the Jewish teens cowering in the bus, trying to get away, had in some way insulted Muslims, and that, according to one of the BBC reporters that night, he asked a question. He said, or he phrased it as a question, he said, "We don't know to what extent the anti-Muslim slurs caused or provoked the violence that night."
Alleged violence.
And what did he say? Did he say that there was anti-Semitic violence? Did he say it conclusively?
Yeah.
He said it was alleged. He said it was alleged. The anti-Semitism, the Nazi salutes, this was all alleged. And the Jewish teenagers who, according to the BBC, uniquely shouted some kind of anti-Muslim slur, according to the BBC, that was reported as fact. That wasn't reported allegedly, that was reported as fact. So we're here tonight, first of all, to say to the BBC, where's the proof? BBC, where's the proof? BBC, tell the truth. BBC, where's the proof? BBC, tell the truth.
Tell the truth.
Silence. Silence from the BBC. It's now 2 weeks since that event. 2 weeks since we've written to them, the Board of Deputies has written to them, the Chief Rabbi has written to them, pretty much everybody in the British Jewish community has written to the BBC, and all we have are the BBC repeatedly doubling down, saying that these slurs maybe actually were just one slur, but it could be clearly heard, according to the BBC. I think every sound engineer that anybody knows has now taken apart this audio. If you want to see a detailed analysis of the audio, you can check out our Twitter feed, where a sound engineer has actually gone through the entire video stream that we have in our possession. The BBC obviously didn't have a reporter on the bus, so we're looking at the same videos they did. And it seems that in that video there's one thing that maybe could be interpreted as an anti-Muslim slur, but then when we deconstruct the video, as the BBC say they have done, it becomes pretty clear to us that that is not the basis for saying that Jewish teenagers had uttered anti-Muslim slurs. So again, we say to the BBC, if you are even doubling down today, just before we arrive here, the BBC was still doubling down. We say, BBC, where's the proof? BBC, tell the truth. BBC, where's the proof? BBC, tell the truth. Now we weren't there that night. We can't definitively say what was or was not said, but neither was the BBC. So how can they be so sure that these Jewish teenagers in some way provoked an attack on themselves? How could they say such a thing? So we say tonight, BBC News, stop blaming Jews. BBC News, stop blaming Jews. Friends,
because it's not justice, is it? It's not justice.
It's not justice, you're quite right. It's not just not justice, it's a libel. Who are these people that they are libeling? They are libeling Jewish teenagers who went out to celebrate Hanukkah. Now, if they have some kind of evidence that those Jewish children are actually bigots who brought on some kind of anti-Semitic attack on themselves, let them present that evidence. But 2 weeks later, the BBC's secret evidence cannot be seen by anybody. It is so clear to the BBC that it cannot be seen by anybody, it cannot be heard by anybody, except for people in the BBC using special software. And let me tell you, sound engineering has been around for a long time. We've all got the same software. We've all listened to the same tape. And we see no evidence so far that there was any kind of a slur. And it's a distraction. They've turned this into a circus. It's a distraction from the fact that Jewish teenagers going about celebrating Hanukkah on the streets of London were unable to. They had to run away because they were attacked. They were violently attacked. And the BBC felt the need to blame Jews without any evidence that they could present in public. So we say again, BBC News, stop blaming Jews!
BBC News, stop blaming Jews!
Publish the Balaam report! Yes, release the Balaam report!
Now, I'm going to ask a colleague of mine, Ellie, who in fact produces the podcast against anti-Semitism, which I recommend you all tune into. It comes out every week. But Ellie was with Lord Michael Grade on Friday. And it's not just us who think that the BBC's journalism was shoddy. It is the former chairman of the BBC who thinks so too. So I'm going to ask Ellie to step up here and tell you what Lord Grade told him.
Good evening. My name is Ellie. I work for Campaign Against Anti-Semitism. I'm very grateful to you all for coming out here tonight. And I think we all regret the fact that we have to be here tonight. None of us want to be here tonight, but we have to be. Within CAA, I produce and present our podcast called Podcast Against Anti-Semitism. And in that capacity, this past Friday, I had the privilege of speaking with Lord Grade, a former chairman of the BBC, about the BBC's coverage of the anti-Semitic incident on Oxford Street. Lord Grade wanted to be here this evening, but he is recovering from surgery, but he told me about his reaction to the coverage. Lord Grade described the coverage as, and I quote, a very, very poor piece of journalism. He added, to describe the anti-Semitic taunts from the people who launched the attack, which you can see on film, there's no way you can describe the anti-Semitism as alleged, which is what the BBC report says. The BBC claimed that anti-Muslim slurs could clearly be heard coming from the bus that the victims of the attack were forced to retreat to. Lord Grade said there is no evidence for that. It may be true, there may have been, I don't know, but there is no evidence that anyone's found so far to support that claim. And the BBC has got to explain two things. Why it defended the broadcast without really understanding the nature of the complaint and examining the evidence, and then two, how on earth did they come to make such a pig's ear of their rapportage? We call on the BBC to either provide the evidence for their claim or apologise publicly.
Apologise now! Richard Sharp, where are you?
We will be...
Where's the proof?
Where's the truth?
Where's the truth? Where's the truth? Where's the truth? Where's the truth? Where's the truth? Where's the truth? Where's the truth?
Occupy! Occupy the BBC!
We will be talking more about the BBC on our podcast this week. So please tune in this Thursday, wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you all again for coming out here. Thank you.
Occupy the license! Let's occupy the BBC! Thank you. Defund the BBC! Defund the BBC!
Is this the first time I'm hearing voices from the crowd? Is this the first time? It's not the first time. The BBC has a long history with our community. Now I ask you something. In an age of incredible vigilance against racism across organisations like the BBC, do you know of any other minority which has this kind of persistent problem? Do you know of any other minority which feels that our national service broadcaster consistently discriminates against them? You know, it's been 2 weeks since the incident took place. We still don't have a satisfactory answer. But let me tell you what the BBC has told us in the last couple of weeks. And I ask you to think about, if this were a one-off event, would we give them the benefit of the doubt? We probably wouldn't, no. But this is not a one-off event. And in the last 2 weeks, anybody heard something about a Christmas party at 10 Downing Street? Anybody got any idea why Newsnight decided to illustrate their footage of the Christmas party with the number 10 Hanukkah menorah? No? In the last couple of weeks, the BBC decided to put together a little report on anti-Semitism. Now there are many Muslims who stand with us, and in fact we're going to hear from one of them shortly, from Muslims Against Anti-Semitism, and in fact I just want to give him a round of applause for being here. It's Fayaz Miguel. He's a really, really consistent friend of our community. But when the BBC produced a report on anti-Semitism and they wanted a Muslim voice which stood for tolerance, did they ask someone from Muslims Against Anti-Semitism to speak?
They asked a terrorist supporter.
Or did they ask a YouTuber who in May went out into Golders Green asking Jews to apologize for Israel? Did they ask him?
Yes, they asked the thug.
And this was the worst, this was the best person that they could find to talk about anti-Semitism and intercommunal relations between Muslims and Jews. This was the best person they could find. Should I tell you one of the things he said? With cold fingers, I shall open a page. He said, I quote, "You love life." And then he said, later on, "We love death." Is this a good representative of Islam?
Yes.
Is this a good representative of interfaith, inter-community relations? Yeah, why is this something that the BBC did just in the last 2 weeks when they knew that they had done this report about the Jewish community, the Jewish teenagers on the bus? Why is it that this is the person that they chose to include in their... Exactly, Jews don't count. This is the person that they chose to include in their footage. In the last 2 weeks, the BBC, a BBC journalist, praised a Holocaust revisionist. This journalist said that they praised the exquisite journalism of another journalist who had said how true was the Holocaust and how did the Zionists benefit. So BBC, shame on you! BBC! BBC, shame on you! 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 And is this their first time? Is this their first time blaming Jews? Anyone remember their Holocaust Memorial Day footage from this year? Dame Orla Guerin went to Yad Vashem. Dame Orla Guerin went to Yad Vashem and she interviewed a Holocaust survivor, but she felt the need to end the clip by talking about how Jews will always see their oppression, they will see their history through the prism of oppression whilst occupying Palestinian land. What has that got to do with the Holocaust, Orla Guerin? BBC News, stop blaming Jews! When Tim Wilcox, and he's a favourite of mine, Tim Wilcox, one of the news presenters on BBC News, he was doing the newspaper review and there was a headline, this was a few years ago, this was in the days of Ed Miliband. There was a headline saying that Jewish donors were deserting Labour. And he asked, what's going on here?
The leader of the National Front, Tony Martin. The leader of the National Front, Tony Martin. Do hate her. Go. Go.
We don't want the National Front here. Clear off, mate. Clear off. Clear off. Clear off. Clear off. Clear off. Go. Get out. You're not welcome here. Get out. Get out. Go. Can we have the police here, please? Racist scum off our streets! Racist scum off our streets! Racist scum off our streets! Racist scum off our streets!
Racist scum!
We know our friends. And in a minute we're going to hear from Fayez Mughal. He's one of our friends. We don't even National Front standing amongst us. My God, no we don't.
Nazi scumbag.
Tim Wilcox.
You wait. Tony Martin.
BBC News newspaper review. When they were talking on BBC News about Jewish donors deserting Labour, Tim Wilcox felt the need to ask viewers whether they thought that Jewish donors were deserting Labour because they don't like the mansion tax. What's the Jewish community got to do with the mansion tax? Only in Tim Wilcox's mind, it seems, is there a link between the Jewish community and the mansion tax. This is on primetime BBC News, and he apologises. He apologises. Quiet apology. And a few weeks later, Jews were gunned down in a kosher supermarket in France. Following the Charlie Hebdo shooting, there was the Hyper Caché shooting. 4 Jews were murdered in cold blood trying to do their shopping before Shabbat. And how does Tim Wilcox cover it? He goes out into a demonstration in Paris and a Jewish lady says that she feels now that Jews are very much the target. Is that a controversial opinion? Jews have just been gunned down. But Tim Wilcox felt the need to blame Jews. He said, and I quote, didn't talk about Israel, didn't talk about Zionists. He said the Palestinians are suffering cruelly at the hands of Jews too. BBC News, stop blaming Jews! BBC News, stop blaming Jews! BBC News, stop blaming Jews!
Oh, campaigning. Okay. Do you mind doing
When Jeremy Bowen,
I'm Louis from London.
sounds like you know his name too. When Jeremy Bowen was reporting on Israeli government policy, he talked about them playing the Holocaust card.
I'll show you my channel.
BBC, shame on you! BBC, shame on you! Now friends, we've just seen off someone who is very not unwelcome here, but there is someone who could not be more welcome, who I'm going to invite to speak to us now. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Fayaz Mughal from Muslims Against Anti-Semitism. He's one of the firmest friends our community has.
Well, it's an honor and a real pleasure to be here, but it's sad we have to come out again and again when Jews are blamed by institutions that we think we should have trust in. The fact that the BBC puts on its website a kind of a tit-for-tat approach when we have seen young Jews simply celebrating Hanukkah just down the road, being attacked, abused and threatened, and the BBC thinks this is a tit-for-tat, tells us how warped and how twisted their analysis of situations are. And where are we in 2021 when young Jews cannot simply enjoy being in central London, being Jews and celebrating Hanukkah? That is actually a smear of what our society, it's kind of a stain on our society. Thank you. And I want to come back to what Gideon was saying earlier. Gideon said very clearly that the BBC interviewed somebody in relation to a program on anti-Semitism who said that Muslims love death. That in itself shows you how perverse the research of the BBC is. I can tell you, I don't love death. I love life. I can tell you that I don't hate Jews. I love Jews because they give me hope. Because the fact that I stand in Britain and enjoy the rights of Britain have been built on your backs, blood and sweat. And the fact that the BBC can put this garbage out as fact tells you much about the individuals, the ignorance and the pandering to prejudice that they are being involved in. So shame on them. Shame on them. Shame on them. And I tell you, you as Jewish communities give me and many Muslims hope. You give us hope because this is the Britain we want. A Britain of respect. A Britain where young Jews can celebrate their identity without fear. And a Britain where you can be proud Jewish and also British and also supportive of Israel. You have every right to hold your sense of identities. You have every right to celebrate who you are. And I tell you what, if they come for you, they better come for some people like me as well. Because in the end, Because in the end, I owe my freedom. Many Muslims owe their freedom, as I said, to the sweat and struggle that you have given to create a place for us in this society. So, it is with great honor that I will always stand with you, but you give me hope and you give me strength. And to the BBC, not only shame on them, we wait for their groveling apology. Their groveling apology, because they will apologize, because they know that what they have written is absolute nonsense. Thank you.
Could anyone have said it any better? Thank you, Fayaz. Friends, there are a few people I want to thank for being here this evening in particular. I would like to thank the volunteers who are here from the CST. Thank you. I would like to thank all of the staff and volunteers from Campaign Against Anti-Semitism who make what we do possible. Thank you. And I'd like the police officers who are also here to keep us safe. Thank you. Now, friends, we promised not to keep you out in the cold too long. There are a couple of things left for us to do. First of all, without giving any of the security staff any need for concern, can we please ask everyone to move towards the BBC, respecting the barriers that are there. We're just going to stand in front, hold our placards and placards only high, so that we can get a couple of photos. Please, can you clear out for a minute? Come on, can you clear out for a minute, please? All right, so if we can just have the we want to do. Come on, everyone's come here to do one thing. If we can have the placards with the red side the right way held up. BBC, tell the truth. BBC, tell the truth. And once more with the red side. BBC News, stop blaming Jews. 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 And now, if we can just have just without the flags, we can put flags down and placards up. Flags down and placards up. Thank you. Okay, so we'll just get a couple of shots of that. Thank you. And if we can just have the other side of the placards. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming this evening. Thanks again to the CST volunteers, to the staff and volunteers from Campaign Against Anti-Semitism, and to the police. We've got a message before we go home tonight to the BBC. BBC, if you've got proof, why is it a secret? If you've got proof, put it out in the public domain. Let us all judge.
And also thanks to those who know our enemies. Thank you, Busker. Yes. Well done, son. Well done, Busker.
Before we go out tonight, let's just say one more time, we don't know what the BBC is listening to on its headphones. We know that what we've heard presents no clear proof of anything. Just the BBC trying to create some kind of equivalence. So BBC News, stop blaming Jews!
BBC News, stop blaming Jews!
Thank you, everybody. Get home safely. Thank you.
And I've been a long supporter of Israel. Back in my days in university, as far back 5 years ago. And I'm here to support them to counter anti-Semitism against the Jewish people. Britain is the pride of Commonwealth. This country have done a lot for the whole world, and everybody who live here should be free of being persecuted. The Jews have been attacked all over the world, and Britain should be the safest place for the Jewish people. And what we are seeing now, being promoted by fake news media, is unacceptable. So I came down here from work to show my total support. You know, as a Christian, I believe that Israel it's our last hope. And the Bible made it clear that I will bless those who bless Israel and curse those who curse Israel. And anything that pertains to Israel, I don't joke with it. I support them.
I didn't want to be here. It's thankfully it wasn't too much of a cold night. I could go and look at all the Christmas decorations in Oxford Street, etc. But really, the reason I'm here is to protest against the BBC for once again. This is only just the latest one. A slight twist, biased. Kind of negativity to anything that should have otherwise been simply Jews being the victim on a bus, being victimised by a group of youths, being quite racist against them, and the Jews that were on the bus were defending themselves, and yet somehow once again we have another Western media outlet, this time BBC, who kind of top on the list. It's not just the BBC. It's Euronews, it's France 24, it's a European conspiracy almost, because they can't seem to see, because there's a perception that Jews are maybe successful in their own personal lives and also as a nation. We're talking about Israel. They can't see us as a minority, and we are not just a minority. We are a minority within minorities. There's under 300,000 of us living in the UK. Next question.
Do you feel like the BBC will respond in the way you want?
Eventually, they will respond. They will respond. It might not be for this particular incident. There'll be another incident because there's so much biased. Whether it's and I don't know what the reason behind it is, if it's to appease certain elements of other communities, if it's a kind of hate to say this, a woke left-wing kind of culture that's infiltrating into the largest corporations, not just the BBC, but big national, international companies, and it's twisted. It's a twisted reality.
So I'm a proud Jew, and I'm also here to defend my cause. I think it's really important to go out on the street and speak out when we are threatened. And just showing them that Jews have a voice and Jews are not afraid and will not remain silent. I think we can't change their minds, we can't change their mentality, but maybe they're going to be more careful in the future and will more pay attention to the Jews.
I'm here today because I basically want the BBC to report Jewish and Israel affairs fairly. Of course, they retracted their statements about Oxford Street, which was about the regards to the vicious assault on Jews, on young Jews who are celebrating Hanukkah, and they retracted their statement, which blamed Jews effectively for it. But we're here today not just in protest about that, but really about their treatment of Israel when Israel is engaged in a conflict of self-defense against Islamists who want to destroy Israel and put Jews in the sea, basically. And so we are here today to show that, no, you cannot talk to Jews like this, and we are going to campaign and stand up for a fair representation of Jewish and Israel affairs, not just in Britain, but around the world, because I'm afraid our media sources are just not being fair to the only democratic state on earth, which happens to be dominated by, or happens to be inhabited by a Jewish majority.
Is it just the BBC, or are there other mainstream media?
Course. This extends much. This extends beyond the BBC, but it remains. So it's in that sense it is a societal problem. But people forget, I have to say this, that Israel is the only state in the Middle East which accords every citizen democratic and equal rights. And I think therefore it's a responsibility of Western sources, Western media outlets, to stand by that state. Yes, identify its shortcomings. Yes, point out where it does wrong. Absolutely. I'm all for free speech and I'm all for Israel being treated in the way we would treat any other democratic state. But the obsession with Israel being the world's worst human rights abusers, the obsession with Israel as being this awful terrorist state is just absurd. And their failure to recognise that there are people in this world driven by an extreme religious ideology which says basically to kill Jews. Their failure to report on this is costing Jewish lives, and their obsession with Israel and their biased reporting and their failure to report this accurately is fueling pre-existing anti-Semitism and is encouraging people to go out and harm Jews. So this failure to report accurately has real effects on real people. It enables us to make some noise about this problem. Whether or not it will actually make a difference in terms of the BBC changing their ways, I'm not sure. But it does. It at least gives us, the ability to speak out on what is really a concerning issue. And as I said, an issue which is encouraging people to go out and do really bad things to Jews. No, it's not a joke. What to outsiders, this just looks like activists or Zionist activists just going out promoting Israel. It isn't. It is our very survival. It's our very lives we're out here for. It's, my university is extremely hostile. It can be extremely scary for Jewish students. This isn't a joke. This is a serious matter.
So this hits you. This is personal to you as well.
And this is personal to all of us, because my grandparents fought for this country. I'm in love with Britain. I'm in love with being European. I feel so connected to this country, but I'm determined to have a future here. But so long as I have the BBC and other media sources against me and reporting my people and our country and our home state unfairly, I'm going to speak out because it's wrong. And I don't just say it as a Jew, I also say it as a liberal, and I say it as a Democrat. And I want to see my fellow liberals and social democrats be able to stand up for the world's only for the Middle East only democratic state.
Do you feel like the BBC will respond in the way you'd like to see, or necessarily?
Look, it's going to have to involve some profound changes. And it's going to have to involve a whole rethink of the makeup of the BBC, I think, and the ideology which dominates this building. So I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm not a fortune teller, although, according to some, I'm a Zionist. I do, run people's minds and stuff. But I don't know what the future will be. But what I can say is that but by going out and by making noise, people will know that there's a problem. And I'm hoping that passers-by here today, and also people who are leaving the building, can think, well, actually, maybe there is something wrong in here. Maybe there is a problem here. And if we achieve that, I think we've achieved something.